Hello, beautiful community. Let's try this and talk a little bit about what you are seeing now in the context of how you don't go loopy while following what scenes are coming out of the West Bank, the extraordinary loss of life in the hospital in Gaza, and Ukraine using ATACMS against a background thought in one's imagination that has to be there, that you're seeing this, but you're not seeing it done against the background of a clear Western strategy in Ukraine. And you're not worried about immediate escalation in Ukraine now, but you're worried about escalation in the Middle East. So you're not just feeling about the terrorist attack by Hamas, you're not just feeling about the extraordinary humanitarian emergency in Gaza. And here you might be feeling not just empathy but fury at different political actors. But you're also now worried about a larger war in the Middle East. And it feels overwhelming. And as soon as you engage, you immediately begin to get into conflict with other people online who seem to not be in the same factual universe as you. So let's say a couple of things about all of this. Number one, you don't have to engage with everything that's really urgent and important in the world. In fact, if you did, you'd go nuts. If you felt simultaneously all the injustice and suffering in the world, you would be in a kind of misanthropic state of wanting to press a button that simply evicted life from the universe, because it would all feel intolerable. So that you have to be selective is not something you can ever get around. And you shouldn't try. You shouldn't try to be impartial in how you react to the world. That's never going to work. It's never going to be realistic because you're human. Now, that might mean that you switch yourself off from certain things going on in the world if you need to. And here, you want to also feel, is my mental health or my level of background stress or anxiety or overwhelm compatible with engaging with a certain issue? Because more often than not, it's better not to engage than to engage badly, to engage in a way that you're going to hate yourself for, or to engage in a way that you're going to feel really junky about, or to engage in a way that there are going to be different voices inside you telling you off. And then you're going to have to try to be gentle in the parts of you that don't want to be gentle with you, and on and on and on and on. So, if you feel that on a certain issue you can't come out onto the field of play without wanting to punch up and be unconstructive in your own engagement and make yourself feel worse about everything, is hard. But try to not go onto the field. And if you do go, you face this challenge of engaging in conflict. And I want to say something about that that's going to be a little bit of navel gazing for us, which might seem indulgent, but we are a community, especially on this channel. We have been talking to each other for a long time, so I think it can be constructive. Now, I think that image of deciding not to go onto the field is very, very important when it comes to how we engage in conflict, because the challenge here is that a lot of people put themselves in a position of engaging with conflict online. Even a kind of virtual conflict whereby you're not conflicting with anybody, you're just reading stuff and conflicting with it in your head, right? You're thinking, oh, you, how dare you, shameful. But you don't even write anything like that. You just have that action. The problem is that living with difference as a citizen in a democracy means a certain capacity to engage with views that are challenging and upsetting and offensive. And that's why I say it's so important to think about maybe not putting yourself on the field for an hour, for an evening, for a day. If you feel that you are not going to be able to engage in difference constructively, if it's really going to get to you that people seem to have the opposite view to you on an issue, if it's really going to get to you that people seem to be playing fast and loose with facts, if it's really going to get to you that people are talking about something being known when it isn't known yet. And here is where I want to come in and say something about consuming stuff on YouTube, even though I know a lot of people are now on Twitter, as news comes in about what's going on in the Middle East in particular, also Ukraine right now too. Now, when we choose what we watch or what we ally with online, of course we have the right to do that, and of course it's always up to us and to get it right or to not quite get it right or to get it wrong. In other words, start engaging with content that's not quite the right content for us. But at the same time, there are also some principles there, which are principles respecting which makes your engagement more conducive to you being an effective citizen or a healthy citizen or a happy citizen even. So let's do a little bit of navel gazing to explore this. I did a live talking a little bit about Ukraine, but also talking about the Middle East yesterday on the main channel. And I kept the live up for a few hours just to give the opportunity to people who were really keen to see it but didn't make it on the dot to catch up with it, and I took it away. The reason I took it away is that I haven't, for health reasons, shared the video on the main channel for about 5 weeks. And because it's a place where new people are welcome, you don't really want a live to be the only thing shared in the last month, because that might be what people would start with, and it's not going to quickly enough, unfortunately, in the age of the internet, frame for them what this is about, what kind of place they've landed in. And of course, that doesn't apply to anybody who's been here for a medium amount of time, but it applies to people who are completely new and to people who have just watched 1 or 2 videos on the main channel. So where am I going with this? In the period during which the live was up, which is about 5 or 6 hours, about 1,000 people unsubscribed from the main channel. And there is something interesting about that that's, I think, worth exploring a bit and worth discussing. The reasons they unsubscribed are actually mixed. Partly, it's that people get angry when they don't get what they used to, right? They've ordered a sofa and an ironing board comes and they don't understand. So some of it is literally about the fact that they expect packaged, edited content. And that's why when I always do a live on the main channel, I lose a few followers. Because people say, well, I'm here for edited videos with music that lasts 10 minutes. I don't want a 2-hour situation where half the time you're looking at the ceiling. The second reason was that I spent, half of the time talking about the crisis Israel-Gaza. And the third reason, which is perhaps 40 to 50% of why people unsubscribed, is that I shared some guiding principles about how to understand the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And in light of this, it's worth mentioning that I ran a survey recently on the chat channel asking you how you'd imagine placing yourselves vis-a-vis some of the conversations I've shared about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And about 40+% of you said that you felt yourselves to be in the ballpark that I recommend. 20% of you said you don't know where you are. 20% said you want to be harsher on Israel than I am. And 20% said you want to be softer on Israel than I am. And so that big bunch of the unsubscribed folks, that half of the unsubscribed number came from small minorities within that 20% not tough enough on Israel, 20% too tough on Israel. And this raises really important questions for all of us. Not because it's a bad idea to leave, it's actually a good idea to leave if something isn't for you. And moreover, it's an extremely nice thing to unsubscribe when you leave. So let me, in fact, explain briefly why that's the case. YouTube kind of penalizes channels if they have latent subscribers, because YouTube loves your subscribers to be active. So from my point of view, it was kind of positive that people were unsubscribing. And actually, I recommend this. If you respect the creator, but you're leaving them, do kindly unsubscribe. It'll help them in the algorithm. If you want to spite someone, actually, leave them without unsubscribing, because that's not going to be helpful to them in the algorithm. But what this raises, of course, is the question of polarization and how we negotiate it and stay sane with it. And here I want to mention the ancient Greeks. Because for the ancient Greeks, when we ask questions like, whose side are we on in the Russian-Ukraine war? And if we're on Ukraine's side as we are, what does that mean? How are we on Ukraine's side? Maybe there are 7 different ways of being on Ukraine's side, and these ways can all come into conflict, and this can be expressed in fights on social media. What's at stake in these fights? Let us say that it could be just a difference of narratives without one being better than another. Or maybe these narratives are better than one another, and it's a matter of insight, a matter of judgment, which one you prefer, right? What the ancient Greeks say is that if we improve the way we see the world, and that includes improving our ethical stance, making it more appropriate, making it more flexible, making it more nuanced, making it more apt, we improve our character. And the other way around, we degrade our character. So what does that mean? That means if my relationship with understanding a certain conflict, particularly in the light of understanding the bigger issues about, human conflict in general that it raises, if my relationship with that conflict improves, that's an improvement of character. I am reacting better to the world around me, right? But in contemporary culture, we don't take it that way. We take it in terms of being on the right or the wrong team. We take it in terms of which group one's with, right? So there is one view of me improving my view about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or about why we support Ukraine. There's one view of that says, have you joined the right group? And there is another view of that which says, have you improved your character? and have you joined the right group is always a way of going on that is at risk of consumerism. You know, I ordered the sofa, but the ironing board came. Whereas the I'm trying to improve my character approach has you say, I don't know what the right thing to order for me is, and maybe something will come and I'll explore if that's right for me. So there's something really dangerous in consumptive relationships, consumerist relationships with content that you allow to come into your life, especially if it is opinion or analysis based content. Because, and this is a strong recommendation for you in all of your sort of, you know, presence in the information environment, try to follow opinion and analysis, or even philosophical commentary, public intellectual commentary, of the kind that elevates you beyond just ticking boxes about, you know, what is appropriate to tick on your team. If the only reason you're following somebody is that you have 17 views that you want them to match on with you, they're not elevating enough for you. They are not giving you enough. Opinion, evaluation, philosophical content you follow, political analysis content you follow needs to give you more than just views you like. Right? That's very, very important. And that's hard, because back to mental health, that means you're always in an uncertain environment, rather than an environment where you know what the 75 ticks that you need to have are, and you're going to get them. And of course, the challenge we all have with algorithms, and that's part of the reason we're spending so much time on this second channel, is that algorithms incline us to develop these sort of tick-based consumerist relationships with content. Yeah. And to make the point this way around, what's happening to a lot of content makers who are speaking about Ukraine is that it's hard for them to start speaking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Not for the trivial reason that YouTube has been very strict with what you say, and people have been getting their videos restricted if they use just descriptions that are to do with awful things happening to children and so on. But because they have audiences that are mixed on the issue, and an audience that's mixed on the issue has a minority that immediately freaks out and leaves, and often for different reasons. And content creators are scared of that, and they don't want to go there because it's it can feel a bit existential to them. So I want you to understand about that. I want you to understand that that's where the algorithm is driving content makers, and I deeply understand their experience with this, and their sort of being very cautious about going there. Speaking for myself, I will continue to speak about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict while keeping Russia-Ukraine central, because it's important, and also because I think you guys are worked up about it and you want some sort of grounding conversations about it. And I'll do that here, and I'll do that on the main channel. But understand that the invisible things, the invisible algorithms that connect you to what you consume, right, are not there to connect you to content that's going to make you a better citizen. They're there to connect you to content that is going to be compatible with your more consumerist rather than your more reflective instincts. So some words of realism here, and also some words of comfort and gentleness. I hope this was of some value. Lots of love. We're going to talk soon. And genuinely, I mean it. Go gently on yourselves.